Have you ever been to a party and done this before? Hey guys, check this out. I stocked all the vodka in the water bottle. Party time!
Oh great, he's passed out again. Who's gonna take him home this time?
Screw that, man. This is the third time this week. Plus I have things to do at, 3:30 this morning.
Why don't we throw him in a recycling bin? Trash can's full.
Hell yeah!
Good times. But stuff like that can either give you a night you'll never forget, or a chronic disease. So let's go for an acid trip, baby. Been saving this for a little bit. Sonic the Hedgehog. What can you say that hasn't already been said about him? His design, his attitude, his speed, and the games that surround him. The 2D Genesis games, the adventure games, the colors, generations made at Frontiers. Oh my god! With all the comics, cartoons, live action movies with another one in production, it seems that this franchise is not stopping anytime soon. Sonic is my jam, man. And you all know how much I love jam.
That's jelly.
It's jam! With the announcement of Sonic Superstars getting me pumped up for a brand new 2D Sonic game that's actually original this time, and by the time this video is released, it's already been a week since the game came out. God, I'm such a snail. It got me wanting to do a marathon of the previous 2D Sonic games that are good. So why not do a marathon of Sonic 1, 2, CD, 3, and Knuckles, and Mania, and nothing else? Nothing else. So with that being said, let's take a look at the first Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Genesis. You see, Sega nowadays is known for being a third-party developer for all the major consoles, but back then they were making their own consoles, with the first one being the Sega Master System. That failed miserably because the lack of interest and not fulfilling the user's demand. Not only that, but considering that all Sega cared about was being better than their corporate rival Nintendo, their first mascot, Alex Kidd, was just not up to snuff with Nintendo's own Super Mario. So Sega, not wanting to give up, they gave Alex Kidd the boot and went back to the drawing board to try again with another mascot to compete against this goody two-shoes of a drug addict. A mascot that would be as popular as Mario, and would give the company as a whole a competitive chance to knock down the juggernauts themselves. They decided to make an in-house contest to see whose character would win and become the new face of the company. There was a rabbit, an armadillo, a guy with a mustache and pajamas, and a couple more, but all were not as Naoto Oshima sketched out a hedgehog, and obviously that would turn out to be the winner. As for the guy in pajamas, they would redesign him into the villain of the series, and it's a good thing that they did, because when I think of Sega, I don't think of narcolepsy. They gave the hedgehog the name Mr. Needlemouse because, I don't know, they were probably high that day. You know what would make this party such a blast and happy? A good old-fashioned weed sandwich. No, give me that back! My precious!
Where'd you even get this concoction of a sandwich?
An alleyway. A group of people with some that worked on Phantasy Star were given the task of making this game, consisting of programmer Yuji Naka, artist Naoto Oshima with Ryoko Kodama and Shinya Shuitari, the designer Hirokazu Yasuhara, and Masato Nakamura from the Japanese pop band Dreams Come True being the composer. With their powers combined, they formed Sonic Team, and when the game was released on June 23rd, 1991, it was clear from day one that it was a huge hit everywhere, selling more than 20 million copies, and not to mention that the game had a very healthy marketing campaign, with distinct commercials as well as having the Blue Blur's ad to make clear that this was nothing like the Italian plumber.
Oh! Little brat!
So I think it's time we take a look at Sonic the Hedgehog for the Sega Genesis. Is this game worth playing in today's day and age? We'll see if the answer is clear to you or not by the end of this video. So let's get into it. The story behind this is the evil Dr. Robotnik captures the little woodland critters of South Island and encapsulates them into robots to help him rule the world. And on top of that, he wants to obtain these mystical gems called the Chaos Emeralds to give him limitless power. Sonic the Hedgehog, the dude with the tooth, sees Robotnik's malicious acts as a big no-no and gives chase to put an end to his scheme. Sonic will have to go through 6 zones with 3 acts in said zones, as you run through the levels to get across the obstacles that the game will throw at you. But what makes Sonic's gameplay stand out is, instead of having a traditional run button, Sonic just gains speed automatically. It's the momentum that he gains as he runs that makes this game different from the rest, and you have to use that momentum to get across the loops and incline hills. So what you gotta do is get to the end of the level while stopping some of the robots and collect rings that are all around the levels. There are modders that can help you, whether it's giving you temporary invincibility, versus speed, or just some rings and extra lives. However, another thing that makes Sonic stand out from the crowd other than the speed and momentum is the health system. In any other platformer, when you get hit by an enemy, you either lose a major helping tool to make a level easier, or you just get pushed back, lose some health, and carry on with your day. When Sonic gets hit, the rings that he collects go flying all over the place, making you vulnerable, but you can still collect some of the rings that you drop to protect you. So that means you can take as many hits as you want as long as you have at least one ring on you, basically combining both those two things I mentioned. Okay, so now that we talked about the stuff that makes Sonic tick, how about we talk about the levels to see what we're getting into. First up is Green Hill Zone, or as the Sonic fanbase calls it, Sir, the level designers are having trouble coming up with original themes. What can we do? Don't worry, fam, I got you. Screw it, they'll buy it anyway. Look, I get it. This level theme has been reused more times than I reused my clothes for the day, but it's a pretty good level. It practically shows you what Sonic is all about in terms of physics, control, and the character itself. It's colorful, it's vibrant, it's Green Hill Zone right down to the core. You got your loops, springs, trees, flowers, multiple pathways, and best of all, the hills. It is without a doubt the best level in the game, and had the most effort put into it. Even in development, they were constantly doing new revisions of the zone, just so they could make it visually appealing and mechanically fun. Which makes the other zones all the more different. Next up is Marble Zone. This is considered by everyone that this is not how you make a Sonic level. If Green Hill Zone has everything right in a Sonic level, then Marble Zone has everything wrong in one. You got your slow moving blocks to push, and you have to stand on them for a bit, and these spike traps that take a bit to ascend and fall back down to jump on them as a platform. There's not a whole lot of speed here, and when I can make a slow section faster, it's few and far between. It's pretty clear why people hate this level because of how much the first impression gave the players what Sonic is capable of, only to not have that and just have you doing what goes against the whole nature of what the game was advertised to be. But you know, I still have a soft spot for it. Next one is Spring Yard Zone. This one is kind of a mixture of the previous two zones. It has some parts that are fast and some parts that are slow, but it's slower than it's fast because of these hallways with these spiky, pointy balls and these slow moving blocks you have to wait on. It's better than how Marble Zone handles the pace, but only by a little bit. Also, Spring Yard just tells you to cope with your problems. Yeah, cool, that's cool. I mean, it's not like this game gives me severe panic anxiety. Very cool indeed. Overall, though, it's okay. Labyrinth Zone is next, and this is basically the worst level in the game to everybody who has played it, because of how cheap the enemy placement is and how slow you move underwater, all because Yuji Naka genuinely thought at first that hedgehogs couldn't swim, so that's why Sonic himself cannot swim. However, despite all the crap that it has, it's really not that bad, guys. I mean, yeah, it's slow, and the enemy placements are dumb, and the water is a big inconvenience, and not to mention that you need to get air bubbles so you don't drown. The music for said drowning doesn't help all that much either. My mental health is fine, what do you ask? It has its problems, but it kinda seems that the people who are always talking about how bad the level is are the ones who are exaggerating a bit. I know I just sounded like a freaking lunatic to the entire Sonic fanbase, but in my defense, I had this thing called tolerance with water. Wait, guys, hang on, let's talk about this. Hang on, wait, no! After that, we have Starlight Zone. This is just okay. I mean, we have some loops and slopes for more speed. There are these cool seesaw things that launch you depending on how high you jump onto it. But there are these Orbinauts that you can't kill, and there are these bombs that you can't really kill at all. And they're placed in rows. The enemy placement here just sucks. I know that's a common thing in this game, sorta, but this is the one zone that I can definitely agree on it having it. The level design is great, but the enemy placements are just the one thing that's holding the level back. At least the music is great, at least. In fact, the whole soundtrack is great. Despite the Genesis hardware being limited to only 4 sounds, Masato Nakamura did a good job making every level sound amazing. And what's interesting is that all he was given was the art levels and nothing else. From the Pleasant to Boppin', Green Hill, and Spring Yard. To more atmospheric but catchy Marble and Labyrinth. They really laid a good groundwork for this first game. With that all said, let's wrap this up by talking about the final zone, Scrap Brain Zone. Every final level should be difficult, and yeah, this is definitely that. I mean, it's the most dangerous looking with the buzzsaws, fire rising out from the ground, and those dumb bears that birth out bombs that can screw you over. But I don't really care about that because I'm usually blasting through the obstacles anyway. And when I mean that, I don't mean I'm using the skill I've used to go through a level quicker. I mean I'm just carelessly running into traps so I can use the invincibility frames to get past them. There are some traps like these crushers that can one-hit kill you, but I try to avoid that when I can. It does capture the fact that you're in Dr. Robotnik's domain, with how industrial the place is, with the background making it look like Robotnik built this place as a death trap for Sonic to overcome. And the music says that to you right away. But after you conquer the first 2 acts, it's time to face Robotnik head-on, and... wait, what's going on? Well, while we wait for Sonic to fall into whatever trap awaits him, how about we just talk about the boss fights for a little bit? At the end of every 3rd act, you're given a boss fight with Robotnik himself. Now, I'm not going to waste too much of your time here, because these are not very hard, nor are they interesting for the most part, so I'm just going to say this. Iconic but easy. 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 This one's on your real fight, and getting through it sucks. And this one at least has a little seesaw gimmick from Starlight, so that's nice at least. Alright, so where does Sonic land to? Yeah, that seems about right. Just when you thought you were done with Labyrinth Zone. No. Labyrinth Zone ain't done with you. Except I'm done with Labyrinth Zone, so I'm just gonna use this shortcut at the beginning of the level to move this along. Here we are, baby, the real final zone, and the final showdown with Robotnik. It's just him and a bunch of tubes and some electric balls! Yeah, if you thought the other fights with him were easy, this one just blends him with the group. You got no rings, but you can just move near the corners to dodge the electrical attacks and wait for him to come down. Even if he comes down a tube and you can't get to him in time, you gotta wait till he comes down again. So not only is it easy, but it's also pretty boring. But after you defeat his contraption, he makes a daring escape, and then you give him one more for the road, and South Island is saved, ending Sonic 1. But hold on a minute, what about those mystical chaos emeralds I mentioned from the beginning? We gotta talk about how you get those, right? If you get to the end of an act with at least 50 rings, you could jump into a giant ring, giving you a chance to nab one of the 6 chaos emeralds, and... I mean, they're harmless, but they're just very uncontrollable for the most part. It just feels like I'm pressing the jump button and wiggling the D-pad while I watch what happens. You can hit these switches to change the speed and rotation to give you control, but that doesn't help you a whole lot, and even when you get all the emeralds, you just get a slightly different ending. So overall, I can say that Sonic the Hedgehog is pretty alright. It's the first game, so obviously people don't think of it as the game to start with when getting into the series. I mean, it's absolutely obvious why that fact is true. The pacing, the beginner's traps, the enemy placement, and the lack of a spin dash, at least for the original Genesis version. But even with all those flaws, this game means a lot to me. It was one of the first games that taught me that games aren't always hand-holding and can be tough and a little bit unfair at times. It's a game with a lot of rough edges in comparison to its sequels, but I still recommend you at least try it. All the more reason to see how far the Blue Hedgehog has come since then. Alright, that's one Sonic game down. Only 3 more to go. Or is it 4? Whatever. Next game on the list is Sonic the Hedgehog 2, so I'll get there eventually, and I might even have a special guest with me again next time. But with that being said, and thank you guys so much for watching, and be sure to stay tuned, and have a nice day.